Well, good morning, everyone. I'm not sure why, but during my meditation, the urge to do a talk on Murphy's Law arose. I think it had something to do with that Murphy's Law, and it never fails that if you enter a meditation hall late, you will find the squeakiest seat in the building. It's inevitable. Some of you might remember retreats out at Sanctuary of Hope, and between the meditation hall and the bathroom was an old wooden floor. And oh my gosh, this floor would creak like a brass band. And it was funny to watch people trying to find just the exact right path on this floor to not make so much noise. So today's talk actually deals with number 7 on the Eightfold Noble Path, known as samasati, or wise mindfulness. And this idea of button, who's pushing your buttons, I want to begin with a little story. This is a story of the old meditation warrior who was sitting in zazen, or meditation, and was sitting with such energy and such commitment and devotion that every mouse in the house stopped and stood still. It's quite a meditation, huh? And his wife even commented on it. She's like, wow, that's, you had every mouse just stop. And he replied to her, oh, then I'm gonna have to work harder. So he went back to the cushion and he sat down with this firm resolution to really deepen his practice. And he achieved a state of meditation so deep that the mouse actually came out and were playing on him. They were completely unafraid. And so this little story has many different interpretations and meanings, but I think what struck me about it was how the practitioner seemed to invite the problem of mice or rodents as almost sort of a benchmark for his practice. In this same way, I want to explore how people push our buttons. And it's not that we learn to tolerate them. It's not that we learn to notice and let go and release and disengage. In fact, it's more than that. It's actually embracing those who push our buttons. Kind of similar to the monks in a certain order that wake up every morning and ask for just enough suffering to achieve enlightenment. Not too little, but not too much, just the right amount. So in this same way, what I'm asking is to begin to cultivate a shift in your perspective that is not annoyed, agitated, disgusted with those who push our buttons, but is a complete 180 where we learn to be grateful, where we embrace those moments when our buttons get pushed. And I'll talk more about this. In the same way that we work with the breath and observe the rising and falling of phenomena, we practice with these small agitations, these small distractions, and these small annoyances as opportunities to go deeper into our practice. This also has the perk, if you will, of preparing us for more intense situations. As they say in the military, we do not rise to the occasion, we rise to our level of training. And so when I say button pushing, I'm not talking about abuse. That's a totally different topic. I'm talking about agitation, annoyance, disgust, just those moments when the right person, place, or thing pushes our button. So I'm not talking about abuse or a situation that you might need to remove yourself from. I'm just talking about button pushing. So let's take a look at some ways that people push our buttons. Oh, this should be fun. I could have you guys chime in, but we'd be here all day, right? So some of the obvious ways that people push our buttons are a little comment or a word, something that perhaps is hurtful or brings us to anger or agitates us, or just somehow it might not even register at that moment, but boy, an hour or two later, we're just fully into it, and it's like, what did she mean by that? So that's kind of the obvious. Then some other ways that perhaps are a little more not as easy to focus on is, for example, sensing energy. Have you ever been in a situation where it's not that they said or did anything, it just, the energy was just off, and for whatever reason, you're just like, I gotta get away from this person. So there's a sense of energy. It might be a person that just always shows up to the meeting or the party or whatever, and you're just like, gosh, I can't stand that guy. And they're like, why? I don't know why. He's never even said anything to me, but just something about him. There's that old something about them. So there's a sensing of energy. Another opportunity for people to push our buttons is something that we dislike about them directly. Inconsiderate, loud, a know-it-all. You know, they've been there, they've done it no matter what you talk about. So there's some aspect of their being that is irritating to you and pushes your buttons. And of course, there's also another one that I have listed here is someone who doesn't do it right. Someone that's bucking tradition or bucking the way that we've always done it, whatever this thing is, whether it's at work or at home or at temple or wherever, there's somebody who's swimming upstream, and that pushes your button. There are, of course, many, many more. But for the sake of time, I just want to kind of focus on a couple of these. So let's take a moment and unpack the gifts in these buttons that are getting pushed. And this is where we begin to shift our perspective and realize, as Rumi said, that these are messengers sent from the beloved to bring you a message, to help you understand some aspect of yourself. If they're pushing your buttons, yay, thank you for that. Not that you would say that in the moment. In fact, most times, to be honest with you, in the moment, you're agitated and you're annoyed. But if even 15 minutes, 30 minutes, maybe even tomorrow morning, you're able in meditation and contemplation to shift and bring this to a realization, then this is fertile ground for awakening. So let's take a look at the first one, the obvious, when someone has a comment or a word that pushes our button. If that pushes your button, this comment or a word, you're taking it personally. And everybody's going, well, they used my name and pointed their finger at me. I love the old story of the student and the Zen master, and the Zen master had come into some disreputation, and some people were criticizing and calling him names, and the student said, Master, doesn't this bother you that people are calling you names and criticizing you? And the Zen master said, people shoot arrows at us all the time. I simply choose not to pick them up and stab myself with them. Even Rumi said, if someone calls you a dog, all you have to do is turn around and look and see if you have a tail. So life is not personal. This other person is expressing discomfort, dis-ease, agitation, unhappiness, or, as we all know, the first noble truth. They're expressing dukkha. It just so happens that you're standing there. It's interesting, if you go in for counseling and therapy, they'll always tell you that the thing you're angry about is not the thing. And so, if someone has a comment or a word that pushes your buttons, then you have this wonderful opportunity to see, oh wow, I'm taking things personally. And if you want to take that to the extreme, then everything is personal, right? That stoplight, it knew I was coming. It gets that crazy, but that's the path you're on. The second one, sensing people's energy. If there's just something about that person that agitates, irritates you, that you don't like about them, number one, congratulations. You're working with body energy. That right there is a wonderful step, that you've released any commentary, any blame or any judgment that the mind's forming about that person, or maybe it's not. Maybe the mind's figuring out why you don't like them, and it's concocting all kinds of stories. But if you're sensing their energy, that right there is a wonderful step. Beginning to sense energy, that's a wisdom trait. And if you're sensing their energy and it's not in the same flow or vibrating at the same level that you are, it's going to feel dissonant. If it's dissonant energy, then we simply feel that. We become aware of that. We move away from that. Be on guard for how the mind wants to concoct imaginary reasons why we don't like that person, even though they've actually never really said or done anything. Number three, and this is a good one, something that we dislike about them. Inconsiderate, loud, boisterous, or they just know everything. And as we know with inquiry and introspection, that this is an aspect of ourselves. They've pushed our button because there's something in them that we are afraid of, have repressed, suppressed, or do not like about ourselves. And they're simply displaying it, manifesting it. So it's an opportunity, if we see something outside that we really dislike and a button gets pushed, that's an opportunity to go in and find out where that aspect is within ourselves. Let me give you an example. One of my buttons is inconsiderateness. So even yesterday, as I pulled in to have breakfast with my teacher, there was a guy that had taken up 2 parking spots and it was only 10 to begin with, out front of this little restaurant. Oh. Looking for a piece of paper and a pencil. He's going to get a letter from me. Dear sir. But of course, that's not what happened. I took a moment, I breathed, and I realized that on the outside, the appearance is one of being inconsiderate. But it's not what happens outside, it's what happens inside. So I got my button pushed. I was able to quickly check in, follow this button back. And what was the inconsiderateness? Because of the spiritual work that I've done looking at this, I was a person that would give myself away. Doesn't matter what you needed, yes, I'll do that. I'll take care of this, fix, repair, solve, help. And I gave myself away to the point that I was unable to even manage my own life. I was being inconsiderate of myself. So now when inconsiderateness is presented to me in some form in the outside world, I still feel the button, but I'm able to quickly process, and at this point, to be thankful and to find gratitude and realize that, oh, yes, there's that old friend. I used to react and live my life from that place. But with introspection, inquiry, and purification, I'm able to see that much quicker. So I was grateful for having that button pushed, even if it was just a little button this time, because it helps me to remember to stay on the path. And when we see something about somebody that we don't like, sometimes it could just be wanting them to be different. Gosh, if they would only listen to me, or if they would only be a certain way. And remember, that's the definition of suffering right there, when the mind wants things to be different than the way they are. Hello, suffering. And it is the disease of the mind that it always wants that. People, places, and things should be, shouldn't be. It wants them to be different than the way they are, instead of seeing the world as it is. seeing this person as they are, not as the way you want them to be. And finally, not doing it right. This came up in several conversations with Sangha members. As you guys know, as director, one of the things that is important to me is to have many teachers, many speakers who come and share a different perspective of the Dharma, a different facet of the diamond. And so therefore they do things differently. And so 2 weeks ago, Bethany Klug was teaching, and her guided meditation is in the tradition of Plum Village or Thich Nhat Hanh, and their guided meditation is different than ours. And so through the meditation, she would give the bell a, which in her tradition means someone's about to speak. Then she would set out a little nugget or jewel of wisdom, and then she would sound the bell. We would go back in meditation. But we didn't stay in meditation because about 5 minutes later came, and then 5 minutes later, it's like this kept going on and on. And this is what's fascinating, is because people were talking to me about this. They were coming up later going, is that how we're supposed to do it? And I really miss the silence, and I want more meditation. And so I want to share with you my experience, because I was platforming that day, and I sat to the side. And as I sat in meditation, there was the first sounding, and then a little jewel of wisdom, and then the bell. And so I appreciated the jewel. At first I thought she missed the bell, because it was like it's like, oh, here, I'll help you. And so, but then I just kind of let that go as she began speaking. It's like, okay, we're moving on. And I appreciated what she had to say, and then she sounded the bell, and I felt myself relax. But then here comes another one. And at that point, I'm going, uh-oh, that's not how we do it. But I was able to see that. And then I was able to see my attachment to the way we do it. I was attached to a certain outcome. And that's exactly what the Buddha is teaching, is the releasing of attachment. And so I was in that moment grateful, because when she did that, and I felt that arise that, oh no, wait, we're supposed to be in silence, I was able to see the attachment. And then when she began speaking to share another nugget or jewel of wisdom, I couldn't hear her, because my mind was going, oh wait, we're not supposed to do that. Oh, but this is kind of good because I'm seeing things. But maybe then, and so then I was able to see the agitation of the mind, another gift. And then she sounded the bell, and I felt my body relax, which means that it had tensed up. And again, I was able to see how the body-mind work together. As the body tenses up, the mind becomes agitated, or as the mind becomes agitated, the body tenses up. All of this in the course of literally a minute. What a wonderful meditation. Filled with opportunities for awakening and enlightenment. And it's the agitation and the annoyance that is the door. As you have heard me say many times, it's not joy, happiness, and fluffy, fun stuff that wake us up. They're nice. I don't want to discount them. Bring them all on. But that's not what wakes us up. It's pain and suffering that wake us up. And the people who push our buttons are bringing us a gift. And so this whole example of not doing it right, when someone swims upstream or someone agitates you or pushes your button, yay, it's wonderful. And I know it's not going to happen at first. At first you're going to be, but I'm saying give it time. Invite it into your practice. Cultivate it. Contemplate it. Work with it, drop in, see if you can root out what the agitation is. Because when you find that and you purify it, you are one step closer to your Buddha nature, to your Christ nature. We cannot grasp happiness, joy, equanimity, and compassion. You cannot get them. They arise naturally when we purify fear, greed, hatred, and delusion. So if we look under the hood of all those things, the comment or the word, sensing the energy, something that we dislike about the other person, or their agitation because they're not doing it right, you're going to find under the hood expectations. We had an expectation that she was going to do this our way. I had an expectation that he's going to park the way I would park. We have an expectation that they're going to say things that are kind and helpful and generous. Expectation, look at all the power you're giving the external world. And is that where power is? How's it worked for you so far? Have you gotten everything you wanted and pain has stayed away completely? There's no power out there. It's an illusion. It's in here. And when you find it in here, you can radiate it out. And as the Buddha said, it takes no energy for one candle to light another. It loses no flame whatsoever. And that's how we do it. The Buddha met people where they were at. He didn't walk around wondering, what the hell's the matter with you? You're not enlightened. He met them where they're at because he understood conditioning. If your family was his family and your teachers were her teachers, your experiences were his experiences, you'd be doing and saying the exact same thing they are. Ooh. Scary thought. Which brings, as the Buddha said, an opportunity for gratitude. The Buddha said we have no cause for nothing but joy and gratitude in this life. So as we understand conditioning, how can we blame and how can we judge? They're doing the way that they have learned to deal with all the experiences that have happened to them in their life, and we do not know what those are. Does this excuse them from consequences and karma? No. But it can help you to find understanding and wise mindfulness whenever someone pushes your buttons. And as you cultivate this, you come to deeply understand what Jack Kornfield called the 23rd principle of Buddhist psychology, and that there is no separation between inner and outer. There is no separation between self and other. Tending ourselves, we tend the world. And tending the world, we tend ourselves.